Hello, today's video I'm going to be looking at making foiled flowers. So crafters get ready for Christmas very early. This is a poinsettia and this is using rose gold foil on silver cardstock. Okay, so that's one example. Here's another one I made earlier today, and this is a very deep red foil, and that's on some green cardstock. This one is using a different dye. This is a tonic gazania dye, and that's on smooth white card. I've done that one, so as that one, and I have another one buried while I've been preparing. There it is. And I've got another one I did on smooth white card using some holographic glittery foil, and then I've coloured in with some blue. I'll show you the colouring in technique as well. So these are the dyes I've used. So this is my poinsettia dye set. There's another one here. Okay, so you'll see that they are pretty much symmetrical flowers, so it doesn't matter which way up the die is, it'll still match up. And it's got these cutouts which, when you die cut, create a deboss, deboss, a raised area for the veins on the petals. Okay, but if I'm foiling, and I'm going to foil using the back of the die, then obviously there's an area with no metal that isn't going to get heated. So that's where I get gap in the foiling. Just wait for a vehicle to go past. Gap in the foiling to create the pattern on the cardstock. Okay, so that's that die, and then here's the gazania die. It's actually a two-part die, so you can foil, and if you look at the die carefully, at the tips of the petals, the cutting edge is outside of where the metalwork is, so you can foil the tips of the petals. And then I've used the inner part, back of that, to create foiling on the petals. Okay. And if you don't want to use the back of the die, with this kind of die, you could just foil using the normal foiling with a die technique, and foil that part to create a pattern on your petals, and then just cut it out with that one. So lots of options. So I've been experimenting. So when you actually do your foiling, you end up with something like this when you've done all your foiling. Okay, and it doesn't look great because it's a bit like the tattered lace charisma printouts. They look a bit blurry, and you don't think they're going to really look right when they're die cut, and then you die cut them and you go, oh wow, that does work. And this is a bit like that. It looks, as I say, it doesn't look like they're going to be great flowers, but when you die cut them, it kind of all comes together. Here's the waist from the green and red one. So when these were sitting inside those lines, they looked quite different. So you have to kind of have faith as it goes along. Now, the other thing I'd say is it's quite important that there's a lot of variation in foils and card and pressure, and how much pressure and heat different foils like to have, and how much pressure you need or heat you need in a piece of cardstock. So I would always say test to start with, and I do my test using my smallest flower die, so that if that doesn't work, I haven't wasted a huge amount of card. Okay, this one looked like it was going to work quite well. Don't know why that one worked so much better than the other two, but I thought that cardstock would work well, and it hasn't. It might work better with other foil, so that's an experiment for me to come back to. That's a sentiment done on the same cardstock, the same foil, and that was absolutely fine. So it's quite important that you trial this technique, because you don't get so much pressure when you're foiling with the back of a die. Okay, so foiling with the backs of dies, I've covered it in other videos, but I'll show you how my GoPress is set up, and then I'll actually do some foiling, and then we can see how these come together. Okay, so let's get the gubbins of my GoPress here. Move my flowers out of the way. So on here, I'm going to use my pick and lift because I've had this on warming up. It's hot. So just move that out of the way. I have here a very thin, very thin metal shim. Okay, it's only 0.3 millimeters thick. It's the sort you get to help with your die cutting. Okay, some of them are 0.3 millimeters thick. Another common size is 0.6. Because mine's so very thin, and when I bought it, I just bought it as thin metal shim. Yeah, I didn't really realise how thin it was. So I have a piece of 300 GSM card cut to size, and that fits just on the grey area of my GoPress, and then I have my metal shim on top. If you've got a slightly thicker metal shim, and I do mean slightly thicker, 0.5 millimeter, 0.6 of a millimeter, then you don't need that extra card shim underneath. I'm not using the thick metal plate. That's the conversion plate for using the Nouveau cut, foil and emboss dies that are the new Couture Creations ones. That's a very specific adapter plate for using with those. I'm not using that. Don't use that. It'll make everything too thick. You'll break something, possibly a die cutting machine or your arm, or it just won't go through. So very thin metal shim set up like that. Okay, so I'm going to put that back on the base so that it stays nice and hot. Okay, and then I'm going to carry on with this one. Now, I've found the most efficient use of time with this, because you have to wait while your cardstock and your foil warm up, is to actually have two on the go at the same time. So I've got one warming up, one that I'm sorting out, cutting the foil to size and sticking down. So I've got some foil already cut. Let's get the next size die. Next size, that one. Yeah, that will fit on that piece of foil. Let me go down the side here. Okay, so I'm going to fit that in place. I am going to use some tape to stick it down. You can go quite close, because there's quite an edge overhang on the die. Doesn't have to be this particular die. In case of look through your collection, see what you've got, see what you think will work, do some experimenting. You'll notice on these that the cut line is a long way inside the edge of the metalwork, and that gives me that bold line around the edge. It really helps me when I need to cut them out, because it makes them easy to line up. So I've got that. I've just one piece of tape to hold it in place is enough. I'm going to put that on to start warming up. Okay, now this one I did, now the foil I'm using is the Couture Creations, what do they call it, Phantom Purple. Okay, so it's a Couture Creations foil, and this one is copper. It's another Couture Creations foil. But this is done, rather than on a smooth white card, this is done on Sheena stamping card, which is a watercolour card. I've got a particular reason for wanting to foil onto that. You don't get quite such neat foiling, but you can use things like sparkle pens on it to colour in the middle. I think that might look quite good. my smooth white card, the marker from my sparkle pins doesn't stick to, which is a little frustrating. So that's that. So that one's warming up. And I've also got this one that I've started doing. This is a Crafter's Companion satin finish card. It's not a red, it's a very lovely pink. Don't know how well the camera's picking that up. And I'm using, the foil I'm using with that is one of my big rolls of foil. It's a lovely foil when you get it right. It doesn't like to be heated too long. Which most foils are fine. If you heat them a bit longer, all the good. But this one, if you heat it too long, it just doesn't stick. So I'll probably come back to finishing that one off later. So that's had a moment or two to heat up. I'm just going to pause. I'm going to roll it through my die cutting machine, which unfortunately has to be in another room. It's too big to bring in here. So I shall be back in a moment. Okay, so I've rolled that through. I'll take that out, put this back in place to warm up. So that way it stays at temperature ready to use. There we are, but a little bit warm. It's only a cutting die, so it will cool down really quickly. And there we are. And this silver card, it's a satin finished silver card. It came in the same pack as the pink. It's a Crafter's Companion card. So it's always good to know there's makes of card that are absolutely fine to use. I've got other satin wool cards that foil doesn't stick to. So as I say, always do a test. Right, so that's that. So let's get the next one of these ready. I think I've got the foil ready here for doing the big one. Now, so will that fit over here? Or have I taken up too much space? I think that will. I'll make sure it's right to the edge. Then that, yep, that just about clears under there. Hopefully you can move that out of the way. If I just lift the edge of that foil, that's just going to clear there. Stick it in place so it can't move. Which means I can put things really close to each other because I know they're not going to move. If I wasn't sticking them down, I'd need to allow myself more space in case things did move. Now the other thing is I'm being careful not to put my tape over anywhere I've already foiled because it can affect the finish on the foil. Put that one in to warm up. While that's warming up, I'm going to get another one of these ones ready. I've got some offcuts of that card here. So I will need a big piece of card in a minute, but I don't at the moment. So here's the foil. Now, is this big enough for that one? Don't think so, so I'll do this one. Give me some foil. That'll be a big enough piece of card for that. Now this card is smoother on one side than the other, so I want to make sure I get I want that side for the best foiling. There you go, so that one's ready. And I'll go and run that one through. Bear with me. Okay, so that's been through, so I can take that out, put that one on to warm. I just like to have a sneak peek before I unstick everything to make sure the foiling's happened. Yep, That's fine. There we go. Doesn't matter if it's a tiny bit off the edge, because the cutting line will still be inside the edge of the card. Now if you have the patience, you can recover the waste from this and cut those out as well and get the opposite colouring. I say if you have the patience, because it's best to trim quite tightly around the flowers, so that's a fiddly job. Right, so that one's warming up. I can get some more foil, I think. Yeah, haven't got any more bits of purple. Ah, I've got another piece of purple. Right, now is that piece of purple big enough for... I've done the small one, I need to do that one. No, it's not big enough for that, so I'm going to need to cut some more foil. I'll go and roll that one through, and then I'll come back and swap them. Okay, so this one's back, so I can take this one off and then carefully put that one on. I've not got a lot of tape holding that in place, so got that on there quite carefully. I don't know if you can see on the camera, the lid of my GoPress is quite scratched. Doesn't make any difference to how the GoPress works, but only if you are using this as a stamp press, then you need to keep a separate lid for stamping to doing anything like this. But the lid is designed as a cutting plate. It acts as such with the Nouveau cut emboss and foil dies that Contour Creations do. So other than scratching the lid, this is doing no harm at all. So I've got that one in to warm up. I'll take this dial up here and see what we've got. Again, this is stamping card, so you tend to get a much more rustic effect. There we are. Now that looks quite messy, but actually that'll probably look okay by the time we've die cut it and made it into a flower. So we'll have to see. I shall do some more and see how they come out. That foil. Okay, so I've done, what sizes have I done? Done those two. I need to do a small one, and then I'll need to find some card to do a large one. That can go on there. This tape to hold it in place. This one that's over on the GoPress has now warmed up, so I shall go and put that through the die cutting machine. And there we are. Right, so back again from the die cutting machine. There's that piece of tape. Find when I'm foiling, the desk gets messier and messier. All the bits of used and unused foils that are cut. Right, so that one can come off. That one can go on to warm up. You can see why I do two at a time. By the time I've fiddled about cutting foil and taping down one, the next one is ready to go. So that's just sliding onto the GoPress base so that, oops, there we are. Let's try and bring this in for you. There we are, so that it heats up, so that's just on there, just out of view. There we are. Right, so this, take the die off. There we are. Okay, the tape I'm using is frog tape for delicate surfaces. Okay, it's a decorator's masking tape that they would use if they were needing to mask off onto freshly painted surfaces and things. There we are. I find it very good with foiling. It doesn't leave residue on the card. It stays stuck when it gets hot, but it doesn't weld itself to the card and leave a sticky mess. So ideal really for foiling. Okay, that one's warming up. I need a bit more foil here. No, I've done all four. I could do another, got the small one in there. Have I got enough foil and enough space to do another of that mid-size? Yes, right, so I'm going to do an extra one. An extra layer for my flower. I'm just positioning that, so if I just flip the edge of the foil, you can see, no you can't see, but that's going to miss, so that's fine. Need some fresh tape. I tend to use the pieces of tape 2, maybe 3 times, and then I find they get cut into by the dies, and they get mushier, and the glue gets heated and then cools and heated and then cools. So although you can use them a few times, they don't go on forever. So that's there. I'll go and put the one here that's been, remember we left that one heating up. I'm going to go and put that through the die cutting machine. Okay, so I've swapped things over, and this one's now been rolled through the die cutting machine. There we are. That's foiled really nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the last one of the ones on the stamping card ready, and while it's warming up I'm going to use most of the other dies and get ready to cut these out. So just need another piece of foil. That was a good guesstimate. Okay, let's just tape this down in a couple of places. Okay. And put this on the GoPress. Put this back on the base. There we are, and leave that while I stick my dies down for cutting. So obviously I've got two here that are completely foiled now. So I don't know which one to do first. Let's do the red one. So I'm just lining it up so I can't see the foil around the edges of the die. You don't need to worry about the veins showing a little bit through the die, but it's only got an outside cutting edge, so that doesn't matter at all if they don't line up. There's that one. And that one. And the little one. The little one really does look so different when it's been cut out to what it looks like when you first foil it. Now I'm going to put a piece of tape here so it's across both the dies and stuck down in the middle so that those can't touch. So that's ready to die cut. Obviously that's an extra one, so I'll have to use that die there, and that die is currently in the GoPress, heating up to foil in there. I'm going to need another piece of tape on that. That's trying to go sideways. There we are. So I tend to use 2 pieces of tape on each die. So I'll go and put that through the die cutting machine to foil it, and then I can actually take it down on here and use it to die cut. So I should be back in a minute or two. Okay, so die cut these. I did move the die I needed the extra one of over to cut the extra one of these. So let's have a look and see how they look now that they're die cut. It always really strikes me how different they look when they're cut out. I'm going to try and leave them in the card for a minute and just take the dies off. No, that's not going to happen. Let's just lay them back down. There we are. Maybe if I just separate them a little bit. There we are. So they're die cut. As I say, they never look overly impressive when they're first foiled, but then as soon as you pop them out the card, they look quite different, I find. So there's the big one. two at that size on one of the tiny ones for the centre. So now I shape them. So let me grab my sponge. Now I have here a piece of dense foam. Okay, now you might find this piece of foam on the back of your stamping platform, or you might have flower shaping kits with a foam mat, or the back of a mouse pad. It needs to be quite firm, just a little bit squidgy. This I found in a kids craft aisle in Hobbycraft when I first started crafting. They were actually selling them 3 for £1 in a sale, so I thought, oh, that might come in handy. So this seems to be just the right density, so you can find something cheap like that, or you've got something that. And then I've got a piece of makeup sponge, and I've kind of made a hole in the middle with my scissors, made a dent, so I use that as well for just for getting some extra depth into the centres. So I use a ball tool. This is a tonic one, doesn't matter which make, and I use mostly this nice big end of the ball tool. Okay, so I'm just going to very gently start pressing on the flower. It's quite thick card, this, so I just want to gently put a curve into those petals. Sometimes I start doing this, I think it's not doing anything, and then suddenly they start curling. So don't use too much water to start with. Gradually build it up, going around the edges. And I kind of go out the fan motion on these. Seems to work with these long pointy petals. Now my videos are quite long. I like to show all the steps, all the bits and pieces. Don't often pause it and skip steps. Some of them I do, it gets very repetitive. But I don't like watching videos where it kind of starts off and then goes, oh, and you've done this, and suddenly you've got all these bits and you're thinking, where did all that come from? So you've seen this, I'd already done the foiling on this one, but you've seen all the foiling for the purple and silver one. You've seen most of the foiling for this one, and then it's just a matter of die cutting them and shaping them. So I'm doing the big one. The big one is the hardest one to shape, but you don't need quite as much shape in it. And sometimes on foil cardstock, I'm not sure the camera can pick this up even, there's a little hair. Let me need to focus. Is the camera going to focus on that? It's not going to. Maybe it's focusing on my fingers instead. That's better. You can just see there's a little hair sticking out the side of the card. Anyway, you get that with foil cardstock when you die cut it. You sometimes get little hairs, and it's just where the coating hasn't cut exactly where the card has. So it's just a matter of getting rid of that. If you get a lot of them, if you take some low tack masking tape and just put it on the back of the card and peel it back off again, that will take the hairs away for you. So you do need to be careful as you do it. So there we are. So I'm going to go around these again in a bit more shape, actually getting the card to relax. Forget to go right to the middle. If you want a bit more curve on the end, you can use a smaller ball tool. Those end bits, a bit more curve. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Right, I've done that, and then I put it on my piece of softer foam and use the small end and go down in the middle and have a good squidge. There we are. And that shapes that for you. So it's a simpler process with the others. So it gets easier, and on the as they get smaller I will switch to the smaller end. So just shaping like this. So I'm going to pause the camera because this really would be like watching paint dry, but I want to show you how I put the flower together at the end. So bear with me. Okay, so I've jumped ahead and shall we do that one? And then I was doing that one, and then I've done that one, and I've done that one. I've just got the last small one to do. So I'm going to use the small end of my ball tool for that one. I want this really, really quite curly. And then pop it onto the softer foam. Now I've dug out a smaller ball tool for this so I can get a real deep push on that. If you haven't got a small ball tool, maybe end of a paintbrush, something like that. Let's just bring that in and the camera can see it. Focus on it. There we are. So there we are. That's not focusing on that at all well, is it? I don't know why it's not. Maybe I'll bring it from that angle. Not big enough maybe. But anyway, small rounded end object to just squish in the middle. Right, and then you need to stick them together. So one of the things I find is sticking to foil, PVA glue isn't the best thing. So you want something like a cosmic shimmer glue or a tonic nouveau glue, or I actually use super thick slap it on. I use a dab of that. So something with some acrylic in it, because that will actually bind to the foil. So just bear with me while I grab my glue. Right, so this comes in a big tub, but I always decant some into a small pot. Then I just use a small palette knife to put a blob onto where I want it. So I don't want any on this layer, I need it on the back of the next size down. Like that. And I want my piece of soft foam just to rest my flower on. And then I'm turning the leaves so that they're offset, so they're not lined up, they're in between. And then I'm going to use my ball tool to push those down in the middle. And it's this layer that always seems to want to twist out of place from where I want it. So let's put that in there. And then the next layer. You only need a little bit of the glue. In there. Hold it down so that it grabs. An extra layer. Again, offset it so they don't line up. It's trying to turn. So it's just get those to offset properly. And finally the little one for the middle. Little plug glue. So I'm not putting any on the petals, just in the middle. Up there. Push it down. And twisting in all sorts of directions. One's going there, that one going there. There we are. So I'm just having to hold this in place so it doesn't twist as I'm pushing it down, because they all want to line up. They don't have to be exactly offset, but you don't want them lining up. And there we are. I think they make a lovely ornament for a Christmas card. Yeah, okay. So I did also do the foiling for that one. I haven't cut that one out. So that one will be made up. And I also need to cut these out. But I haven't cut them out because I want to colour these using my Spectrum Noir sparkle pens. So I'm going to leave those in the card until after I've coloured them, because as you can see from this, these little bits in the middle are quite tiny when the petals are cut out. And I think it would be better to colour them in situ and let them dry and then cut them out afterwards. So I'll do that as a separate video of the colouring, cut them out and making that up into a flower. Okay, so there we are. Let's move that bit forward out of the way. One forward poinsettia. So this was red card, gold foil. Okay, so you end up with a mostly gold poinsettia with red accents. Okay, thanks for watching.